when I was deliberating on, what do you actually teach? And you can't teach culture. You can only experience it. But maybe I'll take you back to the background of why I started Emerging Brand Africa. And I was thinking of changing the business, and then someone said, are you selling it? And then I was like, oh, wow, yeah, it is a valuable brand. I moved to Australia 6.5 years ago. I keep coming back, so that tells you that I'm not settling. And when I moved there, we know globally the African narrative is needing not just a room for improvement, but a whole warehouse. We need to tell our stories, authentic stories about African growth, not Africa that needs aid, but Africa that needs trade. So this is why I thought, where do I start? Because you speak to people in the street and they don't know what Africa is. They think, do you have internet there? I mean, how do you do business there? And I'm thinking, I don't walk around with cash. Do you know why? Because we use mobile to pay. And do you know why is that? Because fintech, mobile money banking was born in my country. And so we are way ahead, but these people don't understand.
Kindly allow us to give a clap. We are way ahead. So we are way ahead.
But unless we tell these stories and become African ambassadors, there's no one who's going to do that for us. We have to make noise. But there was also another thing that actually got me into, not frustration, but I think frustration also brings around innovation. And when I arrived in 2018 in Melbourne, there was a narrative going around media about African gang crisis. This was rowdy youths doing all sorts of bad things, and then the whole community of Africans were branded to be, rowdy, gangsters, and it affected a lot of people, getting jobs in corporate. People are thinking, oh, we read about Africans in the news, we're not giving you a job, but, they never tell you. And I thought, what is my contribution to this negative narrative? So I started interviewing, because I knew we had a lot of Africans doing amazing work within the corporate, in business, and community. So I started interviewing African professionals, African in community work, anyone who had migrated before me. So one thing was to find out what they were doing and sharing their story. And the other thing was also to inspire me as a newer migrant. I wanted to know, how did you move here? How have you settled? How did you navigate, finding work, finding schools for your kids, and everything else? And so I launched that magazine in 6 months after I had launched my PR agency. So I had PR agency first to brand African Australian businesses, and then we launched the media, Stories of Africans, who are doing so well in Africa, 6 months after that. And once we launched that, the magazine took its own life. It was just amazing reception in the market that I had to then sit back and think, okay, so we need a strategy. We can't just do this thing because it was hard work. You know how hard it is to establish your own media, and because you're a new brand, you're not, attracting any advertising. So we had to strategize on how do we grow this brand, because it's now becoming something that the community wants. And so we've done that consistently, consistent. And one of our publications, the Emerge magazine, is actually now listed alongside Australians Women Weekly, which is a traditional magazine, the parents still here. So Women's Weekly is a traditional Australian magazine, and our Emerge magazine is listed next there. And I remember at a forum when I was saying, someone asked me, where's your magazine? I was like, just check on this side. And then she said, you're selling next to Vogue. I was like, yeah, that's who we are.
A clap for her.
And so in navigating culture, one, you understand the market, and sometimes if it's not friendly, you need to educate the market. I think the niche that I have found for our brand is speaking Africa. I speak Africa. People call me Mama Africa, Auntie Africa. I think I welcome all those titles because I'm proudly African. I say I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I'm a bold Kenyan. For those of you who've lived overseas, it takes courage to show up in rooms where people don't look like you, and to speak up when you have an accent, and sometimes, what did you say? Well, I mean, didn't understand what I said.
Yeah.
And then they also say, oh, you speak such good English. I'm like, yeah, it's the same British colony. So, you know, they started as young. And so what I'm trying to say is that, you know, the issue of identity, Sally spoke about so well. Identity, if you know who you are, what you're doing, and who you are doing it for. For me, in Melbourne and Australia, I'm doing it for Africa, because I think that the narrative about Africa as a business destination needs to be amplified. When I launched the agency, I used to say, Emerging Brand Africa, seen, amplified. So now we've evolved. But even when we've evolved to connecting global Africa, I still feel like we still remain at the very core of why we started, which is amplifying what Africans are doing, both in Australia and what Africa is doing, because African governments are looking for business opportunities for their countries. And so that is the intersection where I'm at. Africa Dialogue Australia is a platform that I launched to bring together the African diaspora and the diplomats. And why I did that is because as diaspora, we have knowledges of our own countries, we have knowledges of our host countries. And so we understand the opportunities that our countries need and the innovation that our host country has. And so we can link that because we also understand the culture. I'm a Kenyan, I know how we do business. And then living in Australia, I understand how they want to do business. And so we place in a position where we can leverage that expertise, the networks to do business. And so bringing together the embassies to tell us, why are you actually based in Canberra? What is your mission? How can we help you?
Thank you very much.
It's been a great journey.
Thank you very much.